A big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. If you need a website or a domain, go to squarespace.com/James for 10% off your first purchase. If you'd asked me a couple of months back for a list of things I would prefer to do than shoot film, I might have answered things like walk on broken glass, impale myself on a rusty fence, perform a DIY vasectomy. Point is, for a long time now, I've felt very disinterested in the idea of film photography, despite the fact that I'm asked about it all the time. And largely I think that's because I just consider it inferior to digital in every measurable way, I think. But here's the thing. I'm not really the sort of person who thinks that better is always better. For instance, I wear mechanical watches, despite the fact that smartwatches are on paper, in many, many ways, better. They're often much cheaper, they have lots more features, and they're more accurate at telling the time, to be honest, as well. But having a little mini computer on my wrist would give me no joy whatsoever. In fact, I think it would heighten my anxiety further. But wearing one of these on my wrist every day gives me loads of joy. So despite the fact that on paper at least, maybe it's not the best choice, in my life, my actual life, it's absolutely the best choice for me. Anyway, long story short, one of my resolutions for this year, 2026, is to test my assumptions a bit more than I have in the past. And one of my assumptions is that film is not right for me. So I'm going to test that. Yeah, and I've bought a film camera to do so. So this is the Fuji GW690 II. Camera names have always been bad, haven't they? So this is entirely mechanical. There's no battery anywhere, and therefore there's no light meter, which means you can't control the ISO. All you can control is the shutter speed and aperture, and you do so on the lens, which I think is pretty funky. Now this shoots 120 film, but because it's a 6x9, you only get 8 shots for every roll of 120, which means that it works out about £2.70 a photo when you include development as well. So that's good. It's a rangefinder, which means I will never dare to use a lens cap. Because can you imagine getting a roll of film back, developed, for £2.70 a photo, to find that you've just got a roll of black because you had a lens cap on the whole time? I would cry. And what else can I tell you? It's got a 90mm lens, fixed 90mm lens, which works out just under 40mm, so perfect for me. And that's about it, I think. It's got 2 shutter buttons, which is quite cool. This button on the front, that's a shutter as well. And this particular model that I imported from Japan supposedly has had 535 rolls through it so far in its life. Can you see that? No idea if you can see that. And this camera cost me somewhere in the region, I forget exactly what, but somewhere in the region of £630, which film camera prices are absolutely bonkers. If you want a laugh, go and check out what some people are paying at the moment for Mamiya 7s. It's absolute madness. Anyway, enough waffle for now. Some photography.
Well, first observation I would say is that this is probably the most conspicuous item I've ever owned. I've been here about half an hour, and in the car park a guy stopped me and said, "Is that a film camera?" And then on the beach just then, a lady stopped me and said, "Is that a camera?" Which I think actually is a reasonable question, because look at the size of it. Doesn't necessarily look like the proportions of a camera. But there we go. It's funny, I bought coffee this morning, a very overpriced coffee, as is standard, and I had no hesitation doing that. And yet every time I stand in front of something to shoot with this, I have every hesitation, despite the fact that one shot with this is about half the price of an overpriced coffee. And yet I'll have that photo for life, which, providing it's any good, is excellent value, whereas a coffee lasts 10 minutes. I suppose I've spent a lifetime taking photos for free once I've paid for the camera. Tell you what, it is nice feeling like a beginner again. Because I've got no idea what I'm doing really with this.
Is this perfect light?
I'd say so. It's pretty lovely.
And there aren't many days, or haven't been many days like this.
No, not this winter. Not this winter.
No.
Fingers crossed for January, hey?
Yeah. What are you looking for? Anything in particular?
No, I come here all the time.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure. So, one of the things that seems to appeal most to a lot of people who shoot film that I speak to is the fact that you do have this suspense between shooting the images and seeing the images. And it's definitely a strange thing when you're making a video, because I've got no idea for the first time ever what the photos I'm taking look like. This is probably the slowest change of a roll you've ever seen. To be fair, these are pretty perfect conditions in a pretty perfect place to try and work out what the characteristics of a film stock are. I mean, I've done some reading obviously, but always good to gauge it yourself. Right, 250 f11. Let's try that. I'm trying to make sure that I'm about a stop overexposed, which from my reading on Portra is the thing to do. Apparently it's pretty forgiving overexposed, less so if you're underexposed, but I suppose the proof will be in the pudding. I think someone might be about to walk over the wall. Let's see. Might be worth another shot. If so. You may recall this scene from the summertime when I was banging on about trying to shoot it on a nice calm early morning. Still not had a chance to do that, but hopefully in the coming months. That'd be nice.
So yes, there we have it, my first couple of rolls of Portra 400. James, what on earth is this? You might be thinking, if you're not familiar with film photography. This is my scanning solution, which, to be honest, I would not recommend unless you find yourself in exactly the same situation as me, which is having a high resolution body and a macro lens that you really love. And this contraption here is called a Veloy Easy 120. I think I'm saying that right, Veloy. Basically, there's a light in there, and then you get a holder. You stick your negatives in the holder. You put the holder in there. Why is that not working? You put the holder in there, and you shoot the negatives that are backlit by the light. Really quite simple, and beats, in my position, given that I've got this kit, beats buying a very expensive scanner. That said, this bit of kit, the Veloy, is, well, it's a niche product, and like most niche products, it's very expensive for what it is. And I would say it's one of those products that manages to appear under-engineered and over-engineered at exactly the same time. This holder, for instance, seems very good at keeping your negatives flat when there's a bit of film either side of the negative that you're trying to shoot. But if you're shooting the end of your strip, it's not quite as good. And therefore, even if you've got an uncut strip of 8 photos, if you can't get the photos on the ends flat, then that's 2 photos in your roll of film, and well, that's 25% of the photos you've taken that you can't get flat using this device. So I've bought a third-party one just on Amazon, and this does seem a little bit better at keeping the strips flat, but experimentation needed, I think. And full disclosure, I agree with you. I think it's absolutely bonkers to use a digital camera to take photos of film negatives. I remember the first time I saw a photographer doing that, and I thought, sorry, what? Just take the digital camera out. But Is there a point to this that I can see from my first couple of rolls of shooting with this camera? There is some stuff that appeals, I think. I really enjoyed the delayed gratification that you get from not being able to see what you've just shot. Having spent years, decades shooting on digital cameras since I shot with a film camera, I did find myself looking at the back of the camera thinking, where's my photo? And I liked the fact that I had to wait until my photos got developed to be able to see them. Also, in some ways, I actually quite enjoyed in my first couple of rolls how expensive it is to shoot with this, because it made me very, very intentional. I slowed right down, obviously the fact that you have to meter with something else. I suppose you could use the Sunny 16 rule, but I wanted to be sure, so I used another camera to meter. And actually, I did really enjoy getting some negatives back and photographing them weirdly, and then editing them. I did actually quite enjoy that process and getting to see what it was that I'd shot, because I hadn't seen it before. And yeah, that's a really interesting thing to someone who has only shot digital for a long, long time now. Now, the files themselves, of which this is one. Off the back of these photos that I've shown you so far, these Portra 400, couple of rolls, I don't think there's anything inherently brilliant about Portra 400 that can't be replicated in digital. One of these photos is Portra 400, and the other was taken with my Fuji GFX. And I had a quick look at the film Portra version, and then I tried to edit the GFX version as closely as I could without going back to the Portra version to keep looking at it. And in under a minute, I think I've gotten pretty close. And I think if I could constantly refer to the film image, and I mean I can, and this is just a game I've made up for myself, but if I was constantly referring to it, I reckon I could get a pretty exact match in a few minutes. Now clearly I don't really know what I'm talking about when it comes to film, and it may be the case that there are some instances where film gives me a look that digital just can't. But I don't think that's the case. I mean, digital files these days are so pliable. I mean, all they are is pixels made up of colour, and if you shoot RAW, you can change those colours to an incredible degree. And so in my mind at least, there is no reason that a digital file can't replicate the look of a film file. I stand to be corrected. But yeah, from this couple of rolls, I've not seen anything like that. I have had some issues with dust in my scanning process, which wasn't a surprise. I was fumbling around and making a right mess of it, to be honest. And I did want to find a way to, I was going to say finesse my scanning setup. I need to do a lot more than finesse it. I think I need to massively improve it. Not least because I've heard that from a 6x9 negative, you can expect phenomenal levels of detail. And one of the reasons I wanted to use this camera here, this Sony a7R5, to do the scanning, together with a really capable macro lens, this Tamron 90mm, is that the Sony has pixel shift, which means it can output files together with the Sony software of something like 240 megapixels. Now, if you look at this film file together with the GFX file, which is 100 megapixels, you'll see the GFX file is infinitely more detailed. Now, I'm going to suggest that a big part of that, at this early stage in my film photography trial and error, is user error. The GFX, can't see where it is, but it's got amazing in-body stabilization. This, very clearly, has not got in-body stabilization. And I don't know that I was conscious enough of the fact that I was shooting at 90mm without any stabilization. Maybe I should have been shooting faster shutter speeds. Maybe I should have been shooting faster film. Or using a tripod, which, as many of you will know, I hate to do. Maybe it's a problem with the lens, although supposedly this lens is fantastically sharp. Or equally, maybe I'm doing something wrong with the scanning. Maybe the film's not quite flat, and therefore I'm not getting the detail that I should get. In any case, I shall continue to experiment. I don't necessarily think I'm getting the most out of the negatives in this instance, but to be continued on the resolution front. Anyway, a giant thank you for watching this video and putting up with my nonsense. And also a massive thank you to the sponsor of this week's video, Squarespace. And one day there might be a film photo or two in my portfolio on my Squarespace website. I've had a Squarespace website for best part of a decade now, and it's become absolutely integral to my business. As I say, it hosts my portfolio, it's where clients find me, it's where I sell my books, my prints, my presets, it's where I have my gear page, which I now need to update. And in the past decade, while running my Squarespace website, I've not needed to know a single line of code. It's all upload images, drag and drop. It's fantastic. So whether you're a hobbyist photographer or you have a photography business of your own, I think having a Squarespace website that you control entirely is a fantastic way to show your work online. And if you'd like to try it out for yourself, you can do so with a free trial by going to squarespace.com. And after that, if you'd like to make a purchase, just go to squarespace.com/James to get 10% off your first purchase. And yeah, giant thank you to Squarespace for their continued support of this channel. And I shall see you next time when I probably won't be shooting with this camera again. I mean, I will in future, just not in the next video. That'd be too soon. I'll have to save up for some more portrait. Yeah, and maybe a more powerful vacuum for the negatives, the dust off. Is that a good idea? Probably not. See you soon.